Hi. Someone asked about dialogue, prioritization of information, characterization, plot information. Could be any old information. Um, so here's my opinion on that. I don't write a ton of dialogue anymore. I did write some characters in New Vegas, Chief Hanlon, Arcade, Joshua Graham, Daniel. Well, that was in Honest Hearts, but I don't do a ton of dialogue writing anymore. But I work with the designers on their dialogue, and I give feedback and stuff like that. My opinions on it might not be the same as other writers, so I would encourage you to ask other writers as well and see what their opinions are. But I think my opinion is pretty good. So when it comes to conveying information, especially in role playing games, many of which take place in fictitious worlds that players have never been to before, there's a lot of information to convey, and because it branches, there's a temptation to just allow play. I mean, and sometimes it's not bad to allow players to mine and from like, tell me about this, tell me about Farmer McGraw, tell me about his dog, tell like what's going on. And states change, and then you need to convey more information about because the world changed based on things you did. That's great. The problem is, or a potential problem is, that when you start relaying a lot of information, if the character is not conveying some sort of opinion or attitude about either that subject or something that's tangentially related to that subject, you start to lose the character and you start to lose drive and interest in the conversation. The conversation no longer becomes about a thing, or you miss the opportunity to make it become about a thing, about a topic other than just a bit of information. So, if you say like, well, what's going on in the village? And this dude or lady just says, this is what's happening in the village. And they don't really give any sort of feedback about how they feel about that, any problems they're having. Then that note is dead. Like, that's not going to go anywhere for the player. Now they literally know the facts, and they can go to another node and ask more information. The character doesn't grow. The player's opinion of characters in the world doesn't grow. Characterization doesn't grow, and you're potentially missing out on neat plot hooks. And if you have a potential plot hook, and you don't allow the information to drive towards that plot hook, then you're gonna have to find some other goofy ass way to bring it back to that. So whenever possible, what I like to do is when someone is telling information about something, if you're going to have someone give information about something, ideally make the character, the information and the character go together. So don't just have anyone talk about anything. Allow the player to ask someone about a topic when the character not only can tell them the facts, but also has an opportunity to sass off about it, or, get all sad and mopey, or whatever their deal is, or to use it to tangent into something else. Tell me about the village, and well, yeah, those jagoffs in the village, and this is often Farmer Graw, that jerk, and then you go like, oh, well, sounds like you got some problems with Farmer Graw, what's going on? Well, and then a quest starts. That's a goofy example, but that is a good thing, I think, to be able to combine those things. And then also to allow the player to give their opinion about that stuff. Because that allows them to then interact with the character as a character, and they're exerting their will, they're exerting their personality and putting it into the story. Because more than likely, if the character cares about that subject, there's a chance for conflict there, which that's a good thing in stories, is to have conflict. If you don't have it, then it's probably going to be pretty dull. So look for opportunities. Well, we look for this, but I would also encourage other people who are trying to write RPG dialogues, which can be very daunting. Look for opportunities to give informational bits to characters that are going to care about them, or can use them to segue into things that they care about. Allow the player to respond to those things with their own attitudes and opinions if it's going to make an interesting change in the story. And also use it as an opportunity to drive into things like quests, story opportunities, faction relationship changes, and things like that. Because then it's going back into mechanics. And I believe in an RPG, you want to keep the mechanics as part of dialogue. Dialogue, I don't think, should be something that is just like, well, here I go with the story stuff, and this is just divorced from any mechanical, stuff that's going on. So whenever possible, we try to find ways to combine those. We don't always succeed. Sometimes we do have to just dump it on out, but really try to mitigate that stuff and make it something that's going to engage the player's interest and add more character to the world.